Hi guys. Okay, so whoa, I'm so incredibly late today. Sorry, something popped up. I'm so incredibly late today. So, I do have a lot of news to cover. Rather, like I do have a lot of material to cover. So I figured that we are going to do a little bit of a restructuring of this channel, but I mean in in a way that I think you guys will actually appreciate. So first of all, after every live ends, I'm going to do time markers. So like let's say, some of you like the discussion before the live. Some of you are only here for the news. So I think I'm going to do the lives a little bit more structured, and I'm actually going to Hi Netlin, hi Lauren, hi Lisa, hi James, hi everyone, hi Joe, hi Drake, hi Theo. Sorry, I absolutely jumped straight into the news. Thank you for the pumpkin. Hi Norm. Hi everybody. So if I didn't say your name when I'm saying hello, hi Peter, I'm so sorry. I just before my ADHD forgets what I am trying to say, here's what I'm gonna do. So on YouTube, hi Armin, there is this feature where I can timestamp the video. So I can for instance say like 30-minute mark. Hi Monica, 30-minute mark, we start discussion on this. Like 45-minute mark, we start discussion on this. So here's how I want to structure these lives, and let me know if that's something that you think is going to be productive. So first of all, we've been talking a lot about Russification, and we've been talking a lot about how Russia has been influencing this like concept of Russian superiority in Ukraine and other countries. And we've been doing this like for, I don't know, like a good while before the news every day. So I want to have a Russification, I would say like a Russification explanation every time, or like talk about cultural influences and talk about how Soviet Union, how Russia and stuff like that was influencing the cultural sphere, the language sphere, and basically like how Russia is still an empire, right? And give you vivid, verifiable examples of that. So today I actually found something incredibly interesting, and I am going to recommend you a couple of books. And basically, here is what I'm thinking. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to do news first every day, and then, or rather actually, let's do the discussion on like cultural influences and Russian colonization first, then do the news, then do like the questions and stuff like that. And the first 5 minutes, I will give you updates, brief updates on like things that have happened that you guys most likely have been waiting for updates on. Like, let's start with this today. So do you remember the Theragun that you guys so generously have donated for Tork? And the Theragun arrived to me, I want to say like a week ago, a little before that. So the reason why I haven't sent it to Ukraine yet is because I was trying to see if I could maybe give it to someone from Ukraine who's from Lviv, who could bring it to Ukraine, give it to my dad, and my dad will send it to Tork, because that way it's going to be much faster and also much cheaper. So I'd like to let you know that on Tuesday, actually, so I found people who are going to bring the Theragun to Lviv, and they're flying back to Lviv on Tuesday, so they're going to take the Theragun with them most likely. Well, we're going to this tomorrow, but it's like a nice end. So they're going to bring the Theragun and doggy treats, because I'm going to buy Tork's dog some doggy treats, because I think the dog needs doggy treats, because you know me and dogs. But so yeah, the Theragun is traveling to Lviv on Tuesday, and it should be with Tork like by the end of the week, basically, because my dad is going to send it with New Post, and that takes no time. So I'm going to give you a photo, like, I guess like a photo, I don't know, photo evidence, photo thing once Tork gets it and sends it to me. So I'm very excited for that. That's news number one. News number two is I'm going to put out a video tonight about Leleka. Leleka is a store, and I mentioned it earlier. So one of the other things that we did for Tork that's kind of very, very amazing is there is a store. It's called leleka.support. I'm going to show it to you on YouTube in a second. Basically, it's a store where people from all over the world can buy things from Ukraine, and it will. It's not exactly a store when I checked. Yeah, it is a store. It is a store. It's like a marketplace. Yeah, it's a marketplace. But basically, every store in there delivers abroad, and they cooperate with different stores, and it basically shows you every store that delivers abroad that they are partnering with, and you can easily order things and stuff like that, and they show you really cool brands. And it's just like, it's an awesome initiative, and it's an initiative of Ukrainian volunteers. So I reached out to them because Tork's mom was depressed, because let me remind you, when Tork's mom was in Mariupol, his grandma got injured and her leg was amputated, and so, and they lost everything in Mariupol because they're from Mariupol, and so his mom was like feeling a little down and stuff. And so I basically messaged them, and I was like, hey, would you mind sending a care package to Tork's mom? And so many different stores that work with Leleka that are so nice agreed to send gifts to Tork's mom for free, with no give back or anything. Like, it was just, they were like, yeah, of course, let's do this. This is so important. And so they did. And it was like puzzles, it was candles, it was socks, it was a Woolcrafts blanket that says "Be brave like Ukraine," which is so sweet. And they also did some there is this like thing that helps you preserve food. It's a little like wax paper thing, and it's so awesome. And so I want to, because they were so kind and they were so sweet to do this, I want to do like a video for them, basically like showing these brands and showing what they did, because it's so nice, and like it's not like it's like, anyways, it's just like Ukrainian people are so sweet. And so Tork's mom finally got the gifts, and she's such a mom. She's such a mom. She sent the candles and the puzzles and I think something else to Tork, because she was like, well, you are you are in like your rehabilitation center working on your leg, and so like you probably should have the puzzles and you need the candles. And she's just like such a sweet woman, and so she sent it to Tork, and so I'm waiting for pictures from him, because she gave half of her gifts away to him, but she was like very pleasantly surprised, and it was obviously like a little bit of a mood boost, because it's nice, like it's very nice to just like receive a random like pick me up. And so tonight I am going to do a little video on it, because I don't know, it's like such a good like mood lifter. And while I'm talking about it, I'm gonna show you their website, because it's really cool. And also, I think I've showed it to you before, but so I, as a graphic designer, I really appreciate when things are very well done. And Leleka is an initiative of volunteers from Ukraine. They just did this by themselves. They don't have any like money that's being invested into it or anything like that. And they just do it all by themselves. And so I think it's like so cool. And so this is it. And also, like, look at how like well designed it is. Like, there are little like missiles, flying down. Unfortunately, it says like Ukrainians make awesome things. Like, look at how cool this website is, like #BuyUkrainian. And they have all of these different sections. And so flavored sun-dried tomatoes, very much recommend. Kherson is very famous for sun-dried tomatoes. Oh, they just added a new brand too. But so they have these they explain what's happening in Ukraine. They explain how you can help them. They explain basically what every order does. And it's like a whole initiative to buy Ukrainian. They tell you basically like, so if you go here, they have stories of all businesses. And it's so cool because they kind of tell you, you know, how they originated, what they do. Also, another thing that I would say keep in mind is that most Ukrainian businesses donate like 20% or so of their profits to Ukrainian military. So it's like really cool. Also, look, little doggy stuff. Little doggy stuff. Brand of leather collars and ammunition for dogs. I don't know what that means, but hey, Ukrainian dogs. Ukrainian dogs are having a moment. But like, look, so there is like really cool things. They consistently add new brands to their list, which I think is really cool. There are, you know, there are things for different budgets. There are things for like different purposes. So these puzzles so Frisson is the company that sent puzzles to Tork's mom, which I thought was really cool. And he's actually very excited about the puzzles because, you know, he's spending a lot of time in recovery. So it's fun because he's going to have something to do. You know, you can have a pink Panama, like kalush. And then there are all of these like cute teepees and like floor cushions and bedding sets. So this is a blanket that was sent to Tork's mom, which I thought, which is like so cool because be brave like Ukraine. And also I want to give props to Woolcrafts because this blanket was sold out. It was completely sold out. And I was like, oh no, that's so sad because like, you know, that's a cool blanket to give to a defender's mom. And they intercepted one that they were shipping out to a partner store and they were like, wait, we got it. So they really, really tried. Then everybody is just so incredibly nice. So also these candles are the candles that were sent to Tork as well, and he's waiting for them now. Then I will show you what else because there are so many like cool brands and so many cool things. So these socks, I know that everybody loves Dodo, but there is also Griffon socks, and they have these like boxes of different socks. And look at the price. It's 6 in a box, and they're all very cool and like they're very good quality, and they're also like they're like, look at these patterns. Like, you know, you guys know that I'm a freak for socks, so anytime I see new socks on the market, I'm just like, ooh, hello there. So yeah, I'm very jealous of the socks. I'm incredibly jealous. I have this cave throw blanket from Woolcrafts. I love it. It's so soft. I really want this. I really want this rug because it says ecological product from natural sheep wool and it's $74. So like, okay, that's very decent. Yeah, so there is I'm going to show you in a video because this is not even like the beginning of what Tork's mom received, but I will show you in a video that I will put on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts tonight. So yeah. But yeah. Okay. So this will conclude our little good news session, but rugs are beautiful. You guys honestly check out Leleka support because here's the thing, you know, I get asked so many times, how can we help Ukraine in like a different way than we have been? And I know that it like, you know, it takes a toll because all of you donate all of you have donated so much like time to listen to the news, so much effort to try and understand what's happening in Ukraine, so much money to help out Ukrainians. But you know, sometimes a lot of times when you spend money, you want to get something in return, and that's normal because you know you can just keep giving your spare income to like the causes because you know we people are not bottomless pits of resources, right? And so one of the things that you can do to help Ukraine for like, let's say if you were planning on shopping for your family for holidays, one of the cool things that you can do is you can is you can shop Ukrainian stores, and there are so many cool things that you can get as gifts for birthdays, gifts for like Christmas, gifts for, I don't know, Thanksgiving, for whatever you give your family gifts for. And now it's Christmas season. And also, unlike the United States, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I have. Before Christmas season and before like any big gift giving season, the United States really likes to price gouge. Like everything goes up in price, like right when people shop for presents, and then it goes on sale right after, when like holidays are over. But the thing is, it's not really as much of a sale as we think it is, because it was increased in price to begin with. But so Ukraine doesn't do that. We don't have that. And also, our big gift giving holiday is not Christmas, it's New Year's. So it's like a whole different dynamic. But anyways, also prices are like not, we don't do Thanksgiving because we have other holidays. And so yeah, it's just like a whole different environment. So yeah, so I would really suggest that if you want to get some very quality things. Also, I'm going to point something out, because some people were telling me that like, some things in Ukraine that we put as Ukrainian like people out there are really expensive, and people are wondering why. But so let me say something. So we usually put out brands that are like the best of the best, right? So let's say something like, let's say if you were to buy 100% silk nightgown from like a leading US brand, you would pay $300 to $400 for it. If you were to buy 100% silk gown from Ukraine, from a leading brand, you would be paying $100 for it. So yes, a lot of the stores don't have, like, there are stores with different budgets, but like when you see something that costs like $150 or like $100 and you are questioning why, look at the materials and look what it is, because realistically you're getting something premium quality that's like made of all great materials and made of like everything natural and no like synthetics and no BS, and you're getting it for like probably 75% less than you would in the US. So I'm not like saying, oh my gosh, like you have to spend this much money. I'm just saying that when you see something that's like higher price range, look at like what it actually is. Because like in Ukraine, all of the things that are 100% wool, 100% like silk, 100% gold, whatever, and stuff like that, they're much cheaper than these things would have been here. But if they are over $100, then that means that they're probably some like, fancy materials, something that here would be like much, much more expensive. Okay. So that brings me to the part where we discuss, hello. I will 100% be using this for Christmas shopping. So many things I have already seen for different family members. Oh, yay. I love that. I love that. Can people notice you're an American? Yeah, because I scream from the rooftops that I'm Ukrainian. And I don't know if people can notice that I'm not American, because I'm not people, I'm me, and it's not up to me, right? It's up to people. So I guess you should rather ask people who are in the audience here. But also, hi, Kathleen. Okay, so another thing so here is where we arrive at a very interesting, at least for me, part of the discussion today. So you've noticed that recently I have been talking more and more about Russification, about Russian influence in the sphere of culture in Ukraine, about how Russia spent so many resources and so much time trying to basically diminish Ukraine in the eyes of Ukrainians and make us feel like we're lesser than, and make us feel like speaking Russian with a Ukrainian accent is like a hick thing and it makes us stupid, and that, not speaking Russian again, and not speaking Russian in general is like, makes you some idiot and stuff like that. And so it's one of those things where Russia put a lot of effort into it. And I mentioned in my article that I wrote earlier, Привет. Oh my gosh, I love when Russian trolls enter my Twitch. So here is a bright representative of Russian culture. He comes in and calls me a slur. So in Russia, there is this term that they use for Ukrainians, and it's basically the same as N-word. It's basically the same as N-word, and they call us chachly. Okay, and it's a derogatory slur meant for Ukrainians. And here is a lovely Russian coming in on my stream, and the first thing they say is that slur. Also, it's funny because I've made it so that you have to follow my Twitch in order to be able to comment to begin with. So imagine the amount of rage, the amount of bitterness, and the amount of like just disgusting evil sitting in this person, that they will go and they will follow me and they will wait the 5 minutes that they have to wait to comment something after they follow me, just to write the equivalent of the N-word, just to be like, huh, gross. But no, it does not mean redneck. It means it does not mean redneck. It actually comes from like mockery of Ukrainian so Ukrainian Cossacks used to wear this hairstyle. It's called an oseledets, and the hairstyle was like this. It's like this piece of hair that kind of like was like hanging here, and so basically Russians were calling Ukrainian Cossacks chachli, because chachol, it's what a rooster has on their head, and so they called that hairstyle as a mockery, like the roosters, you know, like thing in their head. So from there, it basically like developed into this slur, and it's meant to be derogatory. So basically, this is where it brings me. So in my previous streams, I have mentioned that I wrote an article on Medium, which I'm also writing a new one, the article briefly mentioned that for a long time in Ukraine, even in the independent Ukraine, there was a lot of Russian TV influence in Ukraine, and all of the media was largely influenced by Russian media, like largely influenced by Russian media. And up until, I don't know, mid 2000s, it was very hard to find something on TV that was Ukrainian production because we didn't have money for it. And Ukrainian channels started buying a lot of Latin American soap operas because they were cheaper than, like, let's say, American TV series, right? And dubbing them in Ukrainian just to fill the air with sort of anything that wasn't Russian. And there started being new channels that weren't sponsored by Russian oligarchs, that were aimed at Ukrainian youth, that were Ukrainian speaking, and that were showing shows that were not Russian. But with that said, a lot of major networks were still sponsored by Russian oligarchs, and there were lots of shows that Russia has made that they actually copied from the United States, because obviously they can't do anything original, that were of Russian production and that were airing on Ukrainian TV. And so there was this one show called, the United States had a show, The Nanny, and a lot of different countries worldwide basically took that show and remade it for their audience, right? So they took the show The Nanny and they translated it and they filmed it in their own country, and it was like their own production, right? So the concept of The Nanny was that this, I'm sure you've seen it. It was like a very popular show in the 90s. And the guy who, it was basically like a love story between someone who's considered to be like poor and not super educated and not very like high class, and a love story, and someone who's like super high class and very wealthy. So it's a cliche. But so this show aired in the US, the show aired in Poland and Turkey and Israel, I believe, in so many different, in France and Germany. So like every country had their version of the show. And in every single iteration of this show, the guy was this wealthy man from the capital city of the country. And the woman who was the nanny came from, like, pardon my French, bumblefuge nowhere in that country. And she was supposed to be like kind of hicky, kind of rednecky, right? And like super unfamiliar, with like the high society elite, right? So in Russia, however, this show aired as well, and the nanny was from none else but Mariupol. She was from Mariupol, and she was portrayed as this super hicky Ukrainian person who couldn't speak Russian well, who was like who had this like super heavy Ukrainian accent. There was never any other Ukrainian character in the show. Every time you would talk about her, first of all, she's from Mariupol, which is a big city, and they made her look like she was from like a deep village. Like they made it seem like she didn't know what a washing machine was, like she didn't know how to behave, in like at like a black tie event. She was very loud. She always had like a ton of family members who would come over. They all had this like really loud makeup, lots of sparkles, leopards, terrible colors, didn't know how to dress. And those characters were always Ukrainian. And that's what was airing on Russian TV. And that's what was airing on Ukrainian TV as well. And it was basically portraying Ukrainians to be these like hicks. So this is one TV show. There was this other TV show called, it was called Daddy's Daughters. And it was about this successful Russian psychologist who was living in Moscow or something, and it was like revolving around him and his 5 daughters and how he's a single father raising them. And so he had an office of his, a therapist office somewhere in like Moscow, which is also like absurd because therapy in Russia are not really like, you know, like mental health is not really developed there. But anyway, so he is apparently this like doctor who is super successful, and he can somehow live in this massive apartment in either St. Petersburg or in Moscow, and with 5 daughters, and they have modern technology, and you know, they all go to like this good school and stuff. And oh my god, hi 8 Life. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. But so basically, you know, he yeah, right, the witch is really cool. But so sorry, on TikTok there are these gift animations, and there is one for Halloween, and it's a witch, and it's really fun. But so basically, he worked in this office, and he had this super lazy employee who was like always late, and she was like his secretary, and she was just like super loud, really tacky, very unsophisticated, kind of like a character that you wouldn't feel for, because she was just frankly like annoying, right? She was uneducated, she was annoying, she was uneducated, she was annoying, she was just like a hick, right? Like, and like not, and I don't mean it as in like, oh, you're a hick, right? I mean like they were trying to portray her. Am I being too loud for you? Oh, you can't sleep? I'm sorry. Take a brownie. No, I just want to point out it's not a weed brownie. No, it's just a regular brownie. Because I feel like if I say you can't sleep, have a brownie, it sounds like I'm trying to give him weed. But no, it's just a regular brownie. But so she was like portrayed as this like really, really loud, gross character. And so this lady was obviously from Ukraine, and she was from Kharkiv, which Kharkiv is a big developed city. And so it's like, they were portraying her as this hick as well. And then, it turned out that basically she was in Russia illegally and she was going to get deported. And her like employer got so happy because like, oh my gosh, we're getting rid of this annoying person. And basically the only way, and basically because he hired her, he would get in legal trouble too, because he hired an illegal immigrant. Do you see what I'm getting at here? As in, like, they're portraying Ukrainians as people who come to Russia illegally and stay there and work and take like Russian jobs, and they're so incredibly like loud and gross, and and lazy, and have no work ethics, and they're always late and stuff like that. And mind you, these are only 2 TV shows that I'm giving you an example from, but this existed in every single Russian TV show. Every time you would have a character that was loud and gross and didn't know how to speak and was like sounding super uneducated, it was always a Ukrainian character. Always a Ukrainian character. And so he basically has to marry this lady. Так, звичайно. And he has to marry this lady in order for her to stay in Russia, right? And so they do this like wedding. She shows up to City Hall, right, to sign the paperwork, and she brings her entire like Ukrainian family from Kharkiv with her, right? And they're literally, the way they're portrayed, again, this like horrible makeup, these really really like loud, tacky, gross people. And they don't know how to speak. Like, one of them has a record, and it's really, and it like also is shown like her family, and she brings this like massive family, and they're all loud, and they're there, and they don't know how to behave and stuff like that. And they feel like out of place, and they're trying to portray this as people from Kharkiv. Right? So they're trying to portray that as like people from like middle of bumblefuge nowhere, and they're from Kharkiv. And then these people come over and they spill something, and so one of the women has like women has like a stain on her shirt, and she's like, "Oh, let me go warm up some water on the gas stove so I can do laundry." And one of the 5 daughters goes like, "Water on the stove? We have a washing machine. Ever seen one?" And it's funny because, like, even if they were from a Ukrainian village, they would know what a washing machine is, because it's not a rarity in Ukraine. But anyway, so they were trying to portray Ukrainians as these like awful, awful, awful hicks. And these shows were not only airing on Russian TV, they were airing on Ukrainian TV as well. And who was watching these shows? Ukrainian youth like me, people like my mom, people like my housekeeper, people like, everyone, literally everyone was watching these shows. And I can't believe that this passed, like, I mean, I can, because obviously the decisions were not made in Kyiv. The decisions were made through like the oligarchs that basically held a grip on our TV. And so this made me think that, this entire idea of like russification, this entire idea of belittling Ukrainians, this entire thing, this was pre-planned from way, way back when, right? From like the 2000s. And then I realized that Putin became president in 2003. And all of these shows started coming out around then. And that's when they were popular. And so, and I was like, wait a second, it feels deliberate. It feels deliberate to like portray Ukrainians as these super uneducated hicks that are like not Russian, but not quite. And also in every one of these TV shows, one of the things that all of these Ukrainian people were saying is that they want a Russian citizenship. It's like they're always there illegally, and they're always working odd jobs, and they're always working super blue collar jobs, and they're like trying to get a Russian citizenship because, like, they come from like middle of nowhere in Ukraine, and it's always a big city too. Like, they portray people coming from Kyiv like hicks, And here's the thing, like, the way that they portray these people, it's mostly like, if you go to a Russian village in the middle of nowhere, the portrayal of Ukrainians is basically what you're going to find there. Like those super loud, tacky people that don't know what a washing machine is. that's a very typical Russian from like a small town, you know, and it's crazy that it's kind of ironic that they were trying, it's like, you know, it's projection. But so anyways, so I was like thinking about it more politically, and I was thinking about it more in depth, and I started watching this girl who basically breaks down in Ukrainian. I started watching her, and she breaks down all of the Russification and all of the like colonization aspects in Russian TV shows from the 2000s. And she's a Ukrainian channel on YouTube, and I started watching her, and she pointed me to something very interesting. So there is an author, and I'm going to show him to you in a second, that used to work as a, he's English or American, but he used to work in Russia as a producer on one of their main channels. And he says that in fact, yes, actually, Russia planned this invasion of Ukraine in early 2000s when Putin became president. And all of these Russification, all of this colonization, all this portrayal of Ukrainians as lesser than, all of this like portrayal of Ukrainians as these like gross, tacky people, was actually on purpose, because he was a producer on Russian TV, and he was saying that it was like almost an order, and it was made on purpose, and that everything revolved around like portrayal of Ukrainians as these like disgusting people. And the reason why they were producing so many shows and putting so much Russian propaganda about Ukrainians in there, because it was deliberate. It was in order to create a specific image of Ukrainians on TV. And so, like, you know, this invasion was apparently like super pre-planned since like Putin's beginning of presidency. So it was not just like the last like 8 years or the last 10 years or the last 15. No, this has been a while now. And this man wrote 2 books on his time working in Russia and on his time being a producer in Russian networks. And I'm going to show you these books. So I put them on my Amazon wish list. I do want to read them because I just found out about them today. I put them on my wish list, not because you guys should buy them, not because I'm like asking, wait, give me a second. There is a Russian over here asking me a question. Yulia, do you understand that all people cannot be gross? Yeah, I understand that. But on Russian TV, that's how Ukrainians were portrayed all the time. So subconsciously, you Russian people were conditioned to see most Ukrainians as disgusting and gross and tacky and hicks. Oh, so the problem is that you're Ukrainian? So you being Ukrainian is the problem? Also, here's the thing. If you're Ukrainian and you are on a very clearly Ukrainian channel of someone who is very clearly from Lviv, someone who is very clearly not, not trying to be subjected to any more Russification and colonization, right? Why are you speaking to me in Russian? You're Ukrainian, you're capable of speaking Ukrainian. Why do you choose to further literally what I was just talking about and continue talking to Russian? They were trying to change the perception of how our Ukrainians were viewed and perceived. I understand, but you're from Donetsk, but you know how to speak Ukrainian, right? Because for me personally, like, I have nothing against people speaking Russian, like between each other, like in their families, right? But like, how am I supposed to know if you're Russian or Ukrainian if you come to my stream and you immediately start speaking Russian to me, and you have a pro-Russianish point of view? Like, for me, I think that Ukrainians, especially people that don't know each other, like, one of our biggest tools is our language. It's like, if you write to me in Russian, I'm automatically going to assume that you are Russian, especially in current climate, because like, I don't know why someone from Ukraine would talk to a Ukrainian person immediately in Russian. I feel like the correct way is, if you see a Ukrainian online, is to start speaking Ukrainian to them, because you're Ukrainian, apparently, I'm Ukrainian. then why are you starting the conversation with me in Russian? You're from Donetsk. Okay, cool. I'm from Lviv. Who told you I know Russian? Like, who told you that I know Russian? How? Why are you assuming? I understand, but mine isn't. So your native language is Russian, mine isn't. Why do you assume that I, as a Ukrainian person, know to speak Russian? You, as a Ukrainian person, know both Russian and Ukrainian, right? Because in your school, you studied both Russian and Ukrainian, right? But I, as a Ukrainian person, am not obligated to know Russian, right? So you come into my stream and you immediately go into talking Russian with me. I'm not aggressive. I'm just like, first of all, you are throwing an insult here. I didn't. You are calling me aggressive because you are calling me aggressive while insisting and persisting to speak Russian to me as a Ukrainian, while I am talking about Russian colonization and Russification. Then you tell me you're from Donetsk and God, your native language is Russian. Like, okay, cool. Well, you're from Donetsk, your native language is Russian. I'm from Lviv, my native language is Ukrainian. You're Ukrainian, I'm Ukrainian. You know Ukrainian, I know Ukrainian. Why in the hell would you persistently want to speak Russian to me? Like, I'm sorry. Last time I checked, speaking Russian in Ukraine was not a requirement. So I think that between the two of us, if I'm a Ukrainian person who speaks Ukrainian, and you don't know if I know Russian, I'm from Lviv. Why on God's green earth would someone from Lviv know Russian unless there were extraneous circumstances? Why am I obligated to understand what you're telling me? I'm not. And also, I genuinely do not believe that you are Ukrainian and that you are from Donetsk and you're not a Russian bot, because in fact, the only person who is aggressive here is you. And you are advocating avidly for anti-Ukrainian things, for pro-Russian things, and in Russian, and you insist on like, oh, why can't you just speak Russian? So I don't believe you're Ukrainian. I'm sorry. And if you are, then boo-hoo, shame on you. Anyways, so back to what I was saying. Hi everybody, thank you for the gifts. But so yeah, anyways, where I was with this is that there is this guy and he wrote a book explaining his time working as a Russian TV producer, and he is a Westerner. And he wrote 2 books, and both of them seem very interesting. I put them on my Amazon wish list because I figured that'd be the easiest place for you to find it. And I didn't put it there because I'm like, oh, please, like maybe someone will buy it for me. Like I'm going to buy it at some point. I do really want to read it. I just found out about it today, but I just figured that anytime I'm suggesting something for you guys to read or to buy for yourself, it makes the most sense to put it on the Amazon wish list because it's easily accessible for everyone. So I'm going to log in to the Amazon wish list and I'm going to show you these books because they're honestly really interesting. I read about the books and I think they're phenomenal and they're fascinating. And they explain how Russian propaganda machine on Russian TV was working specifically to make Ukrainians look like they're lesser than, specifically. And I thought it was so interesting, especially coming from the Westerners, and they were focusing specifically to make Ukrainians look just like that, because apparently they were always meaning to portray Ukrainians as like these kind of Russian but not really people, because the invasion of Ukraine and the seizure of Ukraine was planned way before we could even like imagine it was planned. So I am going. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh, it's so cute! Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Yeah, these Halloween ones are so beautiful. I like they really did a good job on those. They're so pretty. Thank you so much. Um but so yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but give me 1 second. I'm trying to figure out how to show you my Amazon wish list on Amazon computer, because I can't find where my wish list is. Where my Amazon wish list is on my computer. I've never accessed it on my computer, to be honest. Oh my gosh, come on. I've watch list, no. Prime membership, no. Subscribe and save, no. Amazon customer service online, Amazon Smile, wait, watch list, Prime membership, browsing history. Oh, found it. Okay, found it. Okay, so I put 3 books on my Amazon wish list, which I highly recommend that everybody who's interested in how Russia was using TV and stuff like that, to to kind of push their narrative. But so here it is. 1 sec. So there are 3 books. These 3 books. Okay, so you can find my wish list in my link in bio on all vertical platforms. So like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and then you can find it in the about section, I believe, on my YouTube. Okay, so the first book is called "This Is Not Propaganda," and it's by Peter Pomerantsev. This is what it's called. The second book is called "Nothing is True and Everything is Possible," and it's by the same author. And so this book explains exactly how Russian propaganda was shaping the view of Ukrainians and why, and how this was aiding and directly like predecessing the invasion, right? And directly like made in order to and directly sort of the concept was there specifically because this invasion was being planned. And then the third book is by Yeva Skalietska. It's called "You Don't Know What War Is," and it's a diary of a young Ukrainian girl that she started on February 23rd. And she started it specifically to document what she was going through every day of the war. So yeah, so these are the books that I think, if you guys are interested in figuring out how Russian propaganda and Russian brainwashing and mass was working, and these are the books that I think you should read if you're interested in seeing like more intricate processes behind it that you haven't thought about before. Then the book about the war is just a very, 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 very interesting, because the book about the war is just very, very interesting because, it's a diary. It's literally a translated diary of a Ukrainian teen who was writing entries in her diary every day of the war since February 24th. And that's like heartbreaking and incredibly interesting. So then someone's asking me, post the list somewhere, please. So you're on TikTok. If you go to my profile, there is a link in my bio called beacons.ai, and there is my Amazon wish list. And you can just click on it and it'll bring you right there, and you can and the 3 books are there. So also here is on YouTube, if you guys don't see the link anywhere, there is basically my link tree, beacons.ai /Yulia. This is, let me see, I'll edit as a banner and you guys can see it. So this is the website. Generally, if you go to this website, beacons.ai/Yulia, you can find absolutely everything related to like my all of my social medias. There is a link to every single social media. There is a link to my Patreon. There is a link to Amazon. There is a link to Ukrainian charities. There is a link to an English-speaking history channel about Ukraine. There is a link to Ukrainian brands. There is, I need to add Luleka into there. There is just, it's like a very comprehensive list of everything you can find. Everything you can find that I talk about, that I mention, every like network, social media platform that I'm on, which brings me to a kind reminder that I am on Twitter, I am on Twitch, I am on YouTube, and I am on TikTok, and I stream simultaneously to all of these platforms. I have also recently started writing on Medium. And if you want to follow me on any of the aforementioned platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, or Medium, all of my platforms are Yulia. So you see my handle. On YouTube, you probably see it right here on top, right? And it says /Yulia. On TikTok, it's Yulia. On Twitter, it's basically everywhere where you can find me. My name is the same. And that was done specifically to make it easier for you guys. A link to support the mosquito movement. Oh my gosh, no, unfortunately not. Okay, so now that we've covered all of that, let me go grab my iPad and we finally move to the news aspect of the evening. You guys are probably going to have a Cine sighting once I get up because she's right here. And I'm going to grab my iPad so I can start reading the news. And see, one of the reasons why I think it's a good idea to include like little timestamps is because maybe someone just wants to read the news. Maybe someone just wants to hear the news and doesn't want to hear 51 minutes of discussion on other topics. So I'll be back. See here. What's up? What's up, little baby frog? What's up, little baby frog? Wait. What's up, little baby frog? Sorry, Sin. Okay, so I just received an email that's so strange. So this is like the third. Okay, so I ordered something on Chewy around like a month ago, and then it was delivered, but I couldn't find it. Basically, like they delivered it somewhere else, right? So I messaged Chewy and I was like, hey, this actually never showed up. Like, could you please resend it? So they resend it and it was delivered the next day. And this is the third time, mind you, they didn't charge my account or anything, but this is the third time they're delivering me the same thing. Like, this is the third email I got that my Chewy order is on the way. And I find it so funny because like this is not even like auto replenish. It's just, I think there is a glitch in the system and they just keep sending me this order. And I'm just like, I have it and I can't cancel it. I need to call them and I just need to tell them that I already have it. But it's like doggy medication. But I also don't want to like take something that doesn't belong to me. But anyways, okay, so we are going to get into the news finally. Okay, all right. So, okay, so this video is something that I've actually shared on Twitter before, but I want to show it to you again because not everybody follows me on Twitter. Not everybody has seen my Twitter. And so I am going to save it and I'm going to show it to you full screen because it shows the conditions in which newly mobilized Russians are living today. And these conditions are quite frankly ridiculous. It can basically they are sleeping in a barn, in a cow barn, that on a former cow farm, and there is rain, and there is no like they don't have any ceiling from the rain, so like there is nothing protecting them from the rain. They're literally sleeping in like on like wet concrete, and they put hay. Anyways, you guys are going to see it in a second. It's quite literally the most ridiculous thing I've seen. And I know that military conditions are not supposed to be peachy, right? But they're clearly not supposed to be this either. So here is what Russian newly mobilized people are experiencing as
Вот,
as
приехал третий полк, третий батальон с Пензы. Сначала мы жили вот в таких самодельных палатках. Пошел дождик, пришлось переехать. И то прежде чем пошел дождик, был коровник раньше здесь. Сейчас заехали вот в другой коровник. Все, блядь, уже заболели, все мокрые. Вон там ребята. Вот я хуй, типа, блядь, загон или что тут. Ходим, блядь, по говну. Тут вон тоже ребята все тут намастерили, блядь. Ни окон, ни дверей, блядь. Все, блядь, открыто. Мокро. Тут вот спим мы, блядь. Солому кинули на бетон. Люди, вон некоторые, блядь, в проходах спят. Вот, блядь, наша, блядь, армия, нахуй. Мобилизована, нахуй. Сушиться негде, блядь. Но это еще только начало, там есть еще другие ангара, блядь. В такой уже говне живем, блядь.
This is basically what the conditions of Russian military newly mobilized people look like. And to be honest, here is Окей, дякую. Я подивлюся на Стерненка. Я дивлюся телебачення Торонто, я дивлюся дуже багато різних каналів, але його чомусь, його не бачила. Але я про нього чула, тому я подивлюся, бо це вже не перший раз, що мені хтось про нього каже. But yeah, basically they're all sick. They're all like living in these like terrible conditions. Obviously, Russia doesn't care for their newly mobilized. We know this, but they also don't even have conditions to kind of like support their newly mobilized. And this is like the conditions in which they live in Russian facilities. But also, to be fair, like most of these people from places in Russia that are remote, they kind of, their houses don't look much better than that, to be honest, either. As in, like, they all come from sort of like quite poor environments, and they don't have electricity, they don't have gas, they don't have any of the basic necessities that most people have in civilized societies. I'm going to repeat myself and tell you that Russian people, only 30% of Russians have central sewage systems. So that means that the 70% of Russians go to the bathroom to something that does not have a flushing mechanism and does not go away anywhere. So they go to like holes in the ground, they go into outdoors toilets, but they don't have like actual toilet systems. But also, out of those 30% that do, very often use shared toilets that is like one toilet per floor in a building, or their toilets are kind of like sort of these like holes in the floor, like on the first floor of the building, and you just go there and it doesn't flush either, and it's a hole in the ground, but it it goes into the sewage. So it's like disgusting. 25% of Russians are connected to gas, and 25% of Russians have like stable electricity, and the rest don't. So to be fair, these conditions are not, they're not something super new for Russian citizens. And yeah, as in like sleeping in a barn on a stack of hay is probably worse than most have it. But also this just kind of goes to show what Russian government thinks Russians are going to be used to, So that's kind of crazy. Okay, Canada issues government bonds to support Ukraine. Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. The term of the bonds will be 5 years, and the proceeds from them will be used by the Canadian government to help Ukraine. Also, there is this I want to make my stance very clear, because most people who follow me for a very long time do know this, but I know that there are a lot of new people who follow me. So I'm going to let you know, I feel no compassion for Russian soldiers, and I feel no compassion for Russian mobilized people. And I don't think that they didn't sign up for this. They signed up exactly for this because for the past 8 months, they have been sitting and doing nothing to overthrow their government and to stop the killing of Ukrainian people. And them living in a barn doesn't compare to Ukrainian civilians not knowing whether a bomb is going to strike their house tomorrow and whether they're going to be able to wake up. 1. 2, Russian people created this society for themselves, and they didn't do anything to fight against it, and they didn't do anything to not let this thing to be perpetuated. There is a misconception in the West that Russians can't do anything against their government. Yes, they can. Ukrainians did in 2004, and Ukrainians did in 2014. And we were living in the same dictatorship as Russians are, okay? Watch Winter on Fire. The thing is, yes, Russia is a dictatorship, but look at Iran. Iran is an Islamic dictatorship where women are being stoned to death for not wearing their hijab the right way. And Iran has a revolution. The thing about Russians is that, yes, you can overthrow a dictatorship. Yes, it's going to cost you. Yes, you are most likely going to get injured. Some people are going to die. But that is a fight for the future. And you can't overthrow a dictatorship oh my gosh, that's a bot. You can't overthrow a dictatorship by peacefully protesting. And anybody who thinks you can is a dreamer. But here is the problem. Russians can, but that involves getting scathed, right? That involves getting hurt. That involves doing something. Russians don't want to do anything. They want to sit and do nothing and things for them to change. And I'm not saying this lightly. I'm saying this as someone who grew up watching this and who knows exactly what Russian society is like. And this whole Western idea of poor Russians is incredibly it's a privileged idea, because Ukrainians had to fight, and Ukrainians did fight. We had a situation where we had to cause a revolution in 2004. We had a situation in which we had to cause a revolution in 2014, and we had all the same rules as Russia does today. You go to prison for gathering in large crowds. You go to prison for going against the government. You go to prison for this, and the same things. But we stood up, and we had no arms. We threw Molotov cocktails at literally armed police units, special force police units that were beating people up and shooting at people and stuff like that. But we won, because we understand that freedom doesn't come free. Now, here's the thing. Russians say, oh, but I'm scared of going to prison. Oh, but I'm scared of getting hurt and stuff like that. Yeah. So Russians are scared of going to prison, and Russians are scared of going to jail for their future. So they choose to sit on the couch and watch Ukrainians die instead. And I know you're seriously asking, and they were being hauled to prison for protesting this war. Yes, that's a dictatorship. But if you want to overthrow a dictatorship, then you are gonna get hurt. Also, the reason why they're being hauled to prison is because a protest in Russia, you don't need a gun to fight a dictatorship. You don't. You can watch Ukraine. You can watch Winter on Fire, which is a documentary about 2014 Ukrainian Revolution of Dignity, and we won. We won that revolution of dignity. Okay, because our government was a puppet government installed by Russia. We basically had Putin for president with Yanukovych's face as a talking head. But that was it. One, two. In Russia, when you protest, there is a old lady being hauled by 3 policemen, and there are 35 men standing and watching that happen and filming it with their phone instead of going against those policemen. And it's like, how do you think, what did you expect? So you don't want to do anything, and you think that in a dictatorship you can come out and you can hold a piece of paper and you're not going to get arrested. Of course, it's a dictatorship. What do you expect? Of course, you can't protest in a dictatorship. You can't peacefully protest in a dictatorship. You can protest, but you'll be ready to do something. And what you have to do is you can't just stand there and watch an old lady be hauled in police van. First of all, there are thousands of people at the square. You can turn the police van over and it's not going to be able to drive you anywhere. Russians want to have freedom only when freedom comes for them without any effort. You know, I've heard from many Russians who say Ukraine has to win so our government gets overthrown. No, Ukraine has to win to get you the F out of Ukraine. We are not responsible for overthrowing your government. So you want us to get your government out of our country. You want us to get your soldiers out of our country. You want us to die for you to just get a new government? No, that's your problem. We are already dying. We are already fighting against your government on our land. We're fighting against your soldiers on our land. No. You do the work for your future. We are doing the work for ours. I have no, anybody can stay with their own opinion, but I hope that after watching videos on my profile, your opinion changes, because honestly, Russian men and all of these mobilized people do not deserve any compassion, because all they do is complain and they're not willing to do anything to change their situation. Head of the Bureau of International Policy under the President of Poland, Jakub Kumok, said that by its aggression against Ukraine, Russia annulled the NATO-Russia Founding Act of 1997, and Warsaw is interested in participating in the NATO nuclear weapons deployment program. First confirmed video of German air defense systems Gepard taking down Iranian-made suicide drone Shahed, launched by Russian forces at nighttime, likely to hit critical power infrastructure. So there is a video now of Shaheds being taken down by German air defense system Gepard. It's getting hard to see, it's at night, but you will see that Gepards destroy those Shaheds pretty well. So Gepards are already working in Ukraine. Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, said that the Russian occupiers allegedly found drones in Ukraine that can spread mosquitoes infected with dangerous viruses. I'm sorry. There is some person on Twitch that wrote a long message and hopes I know you, Al. I know you're not a troll. I'm I'm not. I don't think you're a troll, and I don't think you're asking questions in bad faith. I just, I was trying to answer it for you because I saw you write that specifically, like very informatively. But if you watch, there are a lot of videos in my profile that go deeper into this, and there are also, if you watch my previous lives, they're saved on YouTube, and if you watch. My interviews with the defenders of Azovstal on YouTube as well, I think you're going to get a bigger picture of this is not a Putin issue, this is a Russia issue, and this is a Russian people issue. But here is a person asking me to read their long message, so let me put it on the screen. I don't know what they're writing, so we're going to read it together. So this is on Twitch. Okay. Dmitry, I'm assuming they're Russian, but I might be wrong. The shadow government uses democracy, change of power, and orange revolutions around the world in order to put their own men in the government of other countries. It happens all over the world. Therefore, these countries support the United States in their dark deeds. This happened in many countries of the post-Soviet countries, except for the countries of Central Asia. And in Georgia and Ukraine, they staged revolutions, bloody coup d'etat. The democracy of today has discredited itself. Okay, Russian troll, here is the thing, Dmitry. You're either a Russian troll or you are just, okay, so he literally just wrote, if you support Ukraine, you're stupid. Well, I'm going to give you a better one and say if you don't, then you are. And also, if you're a Russian, I'm sorry, but I just... So this is a typical representative of Russia. They just told me that if I support Ukraine, I'm stupid, and that America organized a coup d'etat in my country, which was a revolution of dignity. And if it was, I'm sorry, it was a revolution of dignity in my country. It was not staged by the US. It was literally something that we did against the Russian regime that kept killing us for hundreds and hundreds of years. And anyone thinking that the US staged anything in Ukraine is just an ignorant person and is denying us our feelings, our history, and our experiences of being annihilated and genocided by Russia. This is our fight against our colonizer, not America staging anything. So stop denying us our experiences. Hi, Conti. Okay, so this is footage from Bakhmut. As you know, there has been heavy fighting going on in Bakhmut. Ukrainian defenders scoop out sweets from their backpacks and give them to children that have not left the city. Wait, sorry. So these are Ukrainian defenders that entered Bakhmut. This was a key city, and it was incredibly heavy fighting that was going on there. And these are Ukrainian military that just came into the city, and they're going through their own supplies to give children candy because these children haven't seen candy since the occupation began. Look at these kids, like they haven't seen candy since the beginning of the invasion, since the beginning of the occupation, and these soldiers are just giving them something as small as candy. And it's so sad and so disheartening. Also, on YouTube, there is, so I don't like calling people that watch me followers because it's so like strange and it seems so self-centered to me. Like, it's kind of like such a weird word because I'm not an influencer. I'm just a girl with, internet and some knowledge that I want to share. So I prefer to call people who watch my streams a community because I think we're all a community. And I think that a lot of us have gotten to know each other over this over the last 8 months, and I think that we're a pretty tight-knit community, and I really appreciate all of you guys. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I was gonna introduce Armin to the people who are not on YouTube, but basically there is Armin, who is a member of our community, and he's Armenian, and he has been watching the lives consistently for like every day and participating for, I think, a month or a little over a month now. And every day Armin sends a quote on YouTube, and his quotes are so good, and they're always so relevant and so like fascinating and so relevant to everything that we're discussing that day. And I really love it when he sends them. And also sometimes, which Armin, I want to like put you on the spot here and say thank you, but sometimes when he sends a quote and I don't see it because I'm passionately yelling about something, he will comment it under the live when it ends so I can see it anyway. And I find it so sweet, and I'm so grateful. But so anyways, after this super long introduction, here is Armin's quote. Okay. In 1945, General George S. Patton wrote, the Russian has no regard for human life and is an all-out son of a barbarian and chronic drunk. Harsh words, but history has vindicated his opinion. Yeah, I think that's very, 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 very incredibly accurate. And that is a fact. That's what Russian army and Russian people have been showing and proving to be. Kuleba said, Viktor Orban is a very cunning politician. Even if he burns all the bridges, he will build a pontoon crossing. Hungary just needs to wait as long as necessary, he said. According to the minister, so far there is no critical damage from Hungary's position. And here is the decision on Hungary's position from our foreign minister. The American company Westinghouse Electric will build the first nuclear power plant in Poland. This was announced on Friday by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, the European Pravda writes. Explosions are reported in the temporarily occupied Sevastopol. Allegedly, Russian ships repelled the attack of drones. The real name of the employee of the University of Tromsø arrested by the Norwegian police on suspicion of espionage for the Russian Federation is Mikhail Mihushin, born in 1978. The fake name of the man was Jose Assis Camaria, allegedly born in 1984. He pretended to be a Brazilian citizen. Source, NRK, investigator of the international investigative group Bellingcat Christo Groziev. So, this is a man who worked in Norway and pretended to be Brazilian, and he was a spy for Russia. And his real name is Mikhail Mihushin, and he's a Russian spy who was working for Russia in Norway. Institute for the Study of War. Russian forces are likely to falsify claims of advancement in the Bakhmut area, pretending to have made gains in at least one sector amid continued losses in northeastern and southern Ukraine. Artillery of the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroy Russian occupiers with the help of German 155mm howitzers FH-70, Zaporizhzhia region, Ukraine. Hi, Punk. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Valery Zaluzhny, in a conversation with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States, Mark Milley, said that despite the absolute fire superiority and the increase in the number of troops, the enemy is not successful. Thanks to the courage and professionalism of Ukrainian soldiers and officers, our borders remain unchanged, and the defensive operation is being carried out successfully and in accordance with the plan, said Zaluzhny. The commander-in-chief noted that the defense forces are focusing on the following key tasks: to liberate the occupied territories, to prevent the enemy from seizing new areas, to ensure the protection of critical infrastructure facilities of our state by means of air and missile defense, to continue the formation and training of reserves for future combat operations. So here are some photos of a supermarket during a power outage in Kyiv, October 2022. And this is how people are shopping. how would I think this is like a good way to show you. Okay. So basically, these are people with their smartphones shining a light into the product aisles in order to see what they're buying, because the supermarket is still open and you can still shop there because obviously you need food, but you can't see anything because there is a power outage. So yeah, this is a very, very, very interesting reality. Also, I forgot to let you know, but I'm going to read you something from Twitter that is not necessarily news, but is a very interesting information. 1 second. So my dad sent me photos today, and there are photos of this. We have this street in Lviv. It's called Chuprinki. And there is this building on Chuprinki Street that's incredibly famous, to be honest. Like, everybody has seen it. It kind of looks like a castle. It looks really weird. And it's like kind of an architectural like masterpiece, right? Because it's so weird looking. So this is the building. And this is the insides of the building, and very few people have seen the building inside, and its architecture is so fascinating. So it has these towers, and it's on the corner of Chuprinki Street, and like there is a very popular tram route that goes there, and I've always seen this building. So today my dad sends me these photos of this building, and he goes, "Hey, did you know that grandma lived here when she was a kid with her mom?" And I was like, "No, what?" So turns out that my grandmother and her mom lived in this building on the first floor apartment. It had 4 bedrooms. It was a 4-bedroom apartment, which is like unheard of. And it was on the first floor, and it had a garden. And that was the building in which she was born, and that was the building in which she lived in. So she was born in 1941, and her mom lived there for a while, obviously, but my grandma lived there until 1944, when Germans came and decided to put their headquarters into that building. And so they basically ordered them out. And after the war, and after Germany was defeated, no one was like looking back into which apartments belonged to whom. And so my grandma and her mom were never able to return to that building. But that was where my grandma was born, and that was where her mom lived for a very long time. And I was like, wow, what? I've never ever known that. And so I realized that, my grandmother was born in 1941. My grandfather, not my grandma's, not my dad's dad, because he died when I was in 5th grade from a heart attack. But my mom's parents, my grandpa was born in 1938. And so both of them have gone through World War II, and they've heard stories. They know what happened, even though they were kids. And my grandmother's mom survived Holodomor. And so I want to talk to my grandpa and to my grandma and ask them stories about their parents and from what they remember from World War II in Ukraine. And I want to ask my grandma to tell me stories about Holodomor and what her mom had told her and what she had gone through. And so I'm going to put these stories either in a Medium article or in a Medium article and into a podcast episode, or maybe a YouTube video. I haven't decided yet, but I wanted to let you know, guys, that there is going to be a thing coming where I'm going where I'm going to either record a podcast or record a video or write a Medium article. Well, basically an article is probably coming either way, because I want like a wider audience to know, because anytime we talk about World War III and the invasion of Soviet Union, people for some reason only talk about Stalingrad and talk about these battles in Russia, but realistically most of the flank was in Ukraine, and most of the damage was in Ukraine, and Nazis destroyed Ukraine. Like, they were stopped before they were able to really destroy Russia. And the 2 countries that suffered the most from the German invasion in the USSR were Ukraine and Belarus. arguably Ukraine even more. And so it's so incredibly frustrating that people talk about World War II and they talk about like the poor Stalingrad and oh my God, what people went through there. But like we lived in occupation. They did not. We lived in German occupation. Like we took most of the hit from that. And so I want to start kind of like picking my grandparents' brains and getting like testimonies from people who really lived through it. Because I think these things need to be talked about more. And I kind of want to, memorialize these things in podcasts. I reach a wider audience with them. So that's what's going to happen. And this is what I want to let you know is going to happen. Okay. A large exchange of all for all does not suit the aggressor country Russia yet, but the Ukrainian authorities are working on this issue, Dmytro Lubinets, Verkhovna Rada Commissioner for Human Rights, said. And today, 52 defenders have returned back to Ukraine. Some of them Azovstal defenders, Kharkiv defenders, Kyiv defenders, and sergeants, soldiers, medics. 52 guys and girls were, well, I think it's actually 52 guys were returned back to Ukraine. Joe Biden will attend the G20 summit in Indonesia on November 13th to 16th. This was confirmed by the White House. Head of the presidential office, Andriy Yermak, described the nearest future. One is liberation of all Ukrainian territories, return to 1991 borders, sanction isolation of Russia, destruction of the aggressor's economy, release of all our prisoners, security guarantees for Ukraine and further accession to NATO, membership in the EU, International Tribunal for Russian War Criminals, ensuring the responsibility of Russians and compensation to Ukrainians for all crimes and genocide, which will extend to several Russian generations. And also historical justice, debunking and forgetting Russian historical myths about Ukraine and our people, spreading the great Ukrainian history and the truth about the petty Russian one. We still have a lot of work to do and much more to come, but we will do everything together. Today, 52 people were released from captivity. Officers, medics, sergeants, and soldiers. Let me change this. I think that this has gotten enough charge and I can just plug it back into my computer. Okay, so these
Хлопці,
are...
з поверненням, дякуємо вам. Героям слава, вам слава. Дякуємо, що живі. Героям слава, вітаємо в Україні. Дякуємо, що живі, з поверненням.
Дякую, що витягнули.
So yeah, these are the 52 Ukrainian defenders. Lithuania offered to repair at least 12 PZH-2000 howitzers damaged in the war. 2 are already on their way to Ukraine after repair, Lithuanian Defense Minister Anusauskas. Thank you, Lithuania. Russians withdrew military equipment from the airfield in Chornobayevka near Kherson. This is evidenced by satellite images for October 27th. So Chornobayevka is right near Kherson. It's about like 5 kilometers out of Kherson, and it's a very important strategic location for Ukrainians. It's an airfield, and it's a military base, and Russians have held on to it for a very long time. And no matter how many times they have been destroyed there, which Chornobayevka, remember we were joking about it, because every time they'd bring equipment there, Ukrainians would destroy it. But they kept flocking back and flocking back and flocking back. Occupiers hit critical infrastructure in Zaporizhia. The consequences of the shelling are being clarified. The head of Zaporizhia Regional Military Administration, Alexander Starov, notes that repeated attacks are possible. Operation on liberation of temporarily occupied Kherson is likely to last till the end of November, Chief of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, Kirill Budanov. They're trying to prevent us from moving forward, and you should understand that the fighting is going on every day. So according to him, he thinks that Kherson is going to be liberated by the end of November. The 11th Army Corps from Kaliningrad, 12,000 soldiers, was sent to Ukraine and completely destroyed, according to Forbes. Kaliningrad is now virtually defenseless, and the threat that the region's troops once posed to NATO has evaporated. And so Ukrainians are saying, does this mean that we can already say Königsberg again? Because Kaliningrad is that little city that's separated from О, я би дуже хотіла шеврон Чорнобаївки. Ти що? О, господи. Якщо можете, я би з радістю, блін. Я цей, в мене є моя PO Box адреса в цьому в link in bio. Я би дуже була вдячна. But so Ukrainians are joking that it's Königsberg again, or rather Königsberg, because it was a German city and Germany had to concede a lot of territory when it lost the war. And obviously Russia took it over and Kaliningrad became a part of Russia. But it's basically between Poland and Lithuania. And if anything, it made no sense that it would go into Russian possession. And so they renamed the city into Kaliningrad and made it a part of Russia. And it's very separated from mainland Russia. It's in the Baltics. Укрпошта відправляє. І, до речі, Укрпошта, по-моєму, десь там $5 коштує, чи $10, щось таке. І це, воно йде десь місяць, але воно доставляють. Дуже дякую. Russia announced it's with... What? Sorry? Okay. I accidentally. Russia announced its withdrawal from the grain deal after today's explosion in Sevastopol. They accuse Ukraine of attacking Black Sea Fleet ships. But Russia had been wanting to sabotage the deal to begin with, so this was just an excuse. In Russia, men are urged to go to war in exchange for writing off debts for utilities. Act of despair. Good evening, occupiers. And this is a lovely this is actually such a beautiful image because it looks like a painting. It looks like a Van Gogh painting, to be honest, but it's a photograph. Isn't it insane? I really want to post this on Twitter so more people can see this, but it's like, I think it's a very beautiful like photography moment because someone caught that and it's gorgeous. And I don't know if you guys like art a lot or know a lot about art styles, but to me, this looks a lot like Van Gogh. Ukraine has not signed grain agreements with Russia, so it was waiting for the reaction of the signatories, the UN and Turkey. The signatories are Russia, Turkey, and the UN, and Ukraine has not signed any agreements with Russia because it understands that it almost never fulfills its obligations. Therefore, we are waiting for the reaction of the signatories, presidential spokesman Serhiy Nikiforov said in a comment to Suspilne News. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the Ukrainian military attacked Sevastopol with land and sea drones. The minesweeper Ivan Holubets was damaged. During a conversation with students and professors of Yale University, President Volodymyr Zelensky explained that dialogue with the regime of Vladimir Putin was currently impossible, as the aggressor had chosen a course to destroy the Ukrainian people. Also, so United 24 always has new ambassadors, as you know. Scott Kelly had become the most recent ambassador. And so United 24 on Twitter has this poll where they have you guess who is going to be the next ambassador for United 24. And there is a choice that says historian, and I think that Timothy Snyder is going to be the next ambassador for United 24 because he is a Yale history professor, and he's a Yale Ukrainian history professor. And he's been teaching the proper Ukrainian history at Yale as a course. And I think he's going to be the next the next new ambassador, like the next addition to United 24 ambassadors. That's my guess, but it's just a guess. Yes. So Evie says that Timothy Snyder hopefully will be one soon. So everybody voted writer, but I think it's going to be Timothy Snyder. The reserves of the Central Bank of the Russian Federation could be kept frozen until Russia voluntarily agrees to rebuild Ukraine. This was stated by the European Commissioner for Justice, Didier Reinders, or Didier Rinde, the European Pravda writes with reference to the DPA. According to him, the EU has frozen Russian assets worth more than 17 billion euros as part of sanctions against Russia for the invasion of Ukraine. A Ukrainian soldier with Iranian origins greets a representative of the Jewish community during a rally against the Iranian military aid to the Russians. Kyiv, October 28th, 2022. I think it's a very symbolic gesture, because Free Iran doesn't want to pose any danger to anyone, and doesn't want to have bad relationship with Israel. So here is an apartment in Bucha that was destroyed. And I think it's so important to show these kinds of images because they show you the reality of what Russians were doing and what they were destroying for no reason and how much chaos they have wreaked on Ukraine. 28 Slovenian M55S tanks have been successfully handed over to Ukraine. Russia is trying to provoke global hunger. This country has no place in the G20, and that is Ukrainian plea after Russia had tried to exit the grain deal. From November 5th, Ukrzaliznytsia will launch the iconic Train to Victory on the Kyiv-Chisinau route. The train will depart from Kyiv at 17:02 and arrive in the capital of Moldova at 10:38. And this is what the train looks like. It has graffiti all over it, and it says #Mariupol, #Azovstal, it's train for victory. So it says Потяг до перемоги, which means train to victory, and it's kind of amazing. The Russian Defense Ministry accused the British Navy of planning and implementing alleged terrorist attacks on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines. Ukrainian serviceman shot down a Russian cruise missile, Iskander-K. It did not reach Zaporizhia and fell in a deserted place. He's promised to be rewarded for this. Update, we know that the video is old, but today on October 29th, the award to this hero was announced, so we decided to remind you about this moment.
Идет! Сын! Ваня, давай! Давай, сука, падай! Да, бля!
So this man's aim was so good that he shot down a missile as it was flying onto Zaporizhia. The commander of the center occupation group Lapin was dismissed from the post. Recently, Lapin has been actively criticized by the head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov. In early October, he accused the general of surrendering Liman and called him a loser. Electricity supply in Ukraine has been stabilized, Zelensky said. In some cities and districts, restrictions are still possible, but there are significantly fewer stabilization and emergency blackouts. There is still a shortage of energy in the system, and Russian terror continues. So Zelensky calls on Ukrainians to be conscious about electricity consumption. My dad actually bought 2 generators, one for my grandma and one for himself, and he got a very powerful power bank just in case. And he told me about it today, and I was like, because, part of me is like very happy that he is taking these measures, and part of me is so sad that these measures need to be taken. This building in Kyiv was damaged after a Russian missile attack on the first night of the large-scale war. We will liberate our land. We will rebuild everything the terrorists have destroyed. So this is the building. And this is what happened to it on the first day of Russia's invasion. Now, Russia's invasion. Now, first day of Russia's invasion. And I think that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful how fast Ukrainian people are rebuilding everything. At the request of the Prosecutor General's Office of the Russian Federation, Roskomnadzor has restricted access to the t.me domain owned by Telegram in Russia. So now Roskomnadzor, which is like the Russian filtration agency, which is like their not even secret service. I like call them a restriction agency because they basically like they're watching out for the internet, and they restrict, basically what they do is restrict access to the internet and spew propaganda. This is their propaganda agency. So they've restricted access to Telegram. Oh my gosh. Ukrainian youth of the 60s and 70s in paintings by Henrietta Levitska, 1930s to 2010. Look at how beautiful these paintings are. Like, these belong in the MoMA, you know? These belong at the Met. Like, they're fantastic. Good night, Jason. These are so beautiful. Sevastopol explosions again. Russians write that the air defense works. After the suspension of the country's participation in the grain deal, the Russian Ministry of Agriculture said that Russia is ready to completely replace Ukrainian grain on the world market. Okay. Taking into account this year's harvest, the Russian Federation is ready to completely replace Ukrainian grain and supply it at reasonable prices to all interested countries. Oh, really? So you're blocking Ukrainian grain and you want to supply the grain due to a shortage that you are causing. That is not how mob works at all. That is not how blackmail works. You create a shortage and then you fulfill it. The main news for October 29th, the armed forces have already eliminated 70,000 occupiers. In the temporarily occupied Sevastopol, explosions. Russians announced drone strikes on the fleet. 52 people were released from Russian captivity. Officers, medics, sergeants, and soldiers. Exported Ukrainian grain saved 100 million people from extreme poverty, says the UN. The Russian Defense Ministry says it is suspending participation in the grain deal. Ukraine switches to winter time. So actually, I'm in New York on Eastern Standard Time Zone, and normally my time difference with my parents is 7 hours, but now it's 6. For 2 weeks until we switch to winter time. Germany has handed over daylight savings. Germany has handed over 14 generators of various capacities for the units of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. This was reported by the German embassy in Kyiv. French members of the International Foreign Legion remove and destroy Russian propaganda and Russian flag. I am going to show you the full video on here and then on here as well. Just give me 1 second to download it and I will demonstrate it to you guys. Okay. Okay. Yeah, also Lauren says, yeah, they want to fill the shortage with stolen Ukrainian grain. Yes, actually, it's not even grain. Likely.
Allez, saute dessus.
Russian, not welcome. Le drapeau communiste, il crame bien. Grenade! Yeah!
Move! Ammunition!
This is so the flag that they were burning for a while, like the one with the eagle. It's the flag of DPR Pseudo Republic, LPR Pseudo Republic, and it's nice to watch it burn because it's not a real place. US President Biden says Russia's decision to suspend participation in grain export deal is outrageous. In turn, the spokeswoman for the National Security Council said that such a step of Russia is the use of food weapons. That's what they have been doing. Like, I love how people in various different Western institutions are like, oh, this is terrible. This is food terrorism. And it's like, yes, that's what we've been saying the whole time. Important, sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's all I have for you for today. So if you guys have any questions, suggestions, or anything that you like to ask or anything that you like to add, we're now going to go to the Q&A time and discussion time. So yeah, let me know if there is anything that you want to, if there is anything that you want to talk about, if there are any questions, suggestions, anything that you want to find out about. And this is the time when we can do that. So yeah, let me have a sip of Та, я тобі відпишуся в інсті. Я зараз, коли закінчиться лайв, відпишу. So, anyone? Anything? Anyone wants to say anything? Let me know. I'm over here like, no one wants to talk to me. No one has any questions. But if you don't, that's fine too. I have so much laundry to put away that I already folded, but need to put away that you have no idea. How did Ukraine train mosquitoes? Thank you, Lauren. How did Ukraine how did Ukraine train mosquitoes to attack Russian soldiers? Well, the biolabs we have in Ukraine, we have animals of all sorts trained to facilitate extermination of Russian invaders. They're very smart. They're all microchipped. So here's the thing. COVID vaccine actually turns you into a biomutation if you're an animal. So for instance, I've been thinking that, I have a regular dog and I'm not happy with regular dog. Regular dog is boring. So I think I'm going to go to Ukraine to bioweapon laboratory, and I'm going to turn this dog into a bionuclear weapon that is going to be trained to attack Russian soldiers. Is this Bander? I want to turn her from regular dog to Bander dog, Bander pass. Okay, which in Ukraine we call. Oh, sorry, Sini. Sorry, baby. Which in Ukraine, it is a Stepan Bandera dog. This is a very normal thing for Western Ukraine. You can walk into any laboratory facility, any doctor office. They give COVID vaccine. To give a COVID vaccine to dog turns into Bander dog. So yes, this is how we do it. And then how long have you been in the US? 11 years. I moved here for my final year of boarding school and then went to college. And then, life happened and I'm here. And how long do you think this war will go on, do you think? I don't know. No one knows. It depends on how efficiently we can get the weapons, and it depends on whether the weapons that we're asking for are going to be finally supplied by our partners and allies. And Armin over here says, do they bioweapon mosquitoes work with the bioweapon pigeons? Oh, of course. The bioweapon pigeons and the bioweapon mosquitoes are best friends. It's like, the pigeon houses mosquitoes under its wings. The pigeon flies to Russia. It releases mosquitoes. Mosquitoes exterminate Russian soldiers. Of course, it is not a one pigeon operation. It is a pigeon mosquito operation. Of course, they complement each other. How pigeons and mosquitoes not together? Are you kidding me? Cindy heard that. Cindy loves these, and these are fantastic because they're just like sweet potato fries, basically, for dogs. Excuse you. She's like, listen, give me the full thing. She just doesn't chew things. Do you feel like your allies are holding up their end? I think that we have gotten an incredible amount of support from our allies, but I also do think that there is a lot of bureaucracy going on, and that there are weapons that we could have gotten a long time ago that we haven't gotten because of some pseudo claims that we would attack Russia, and everybody understands that we won't. And so there is a holdup in those, and those weapons would be incredibly critical in this war ending as soon as possible. What more can your average American do to help the Ukrainian people? So from the things that don't require any donations or anything like that, call your representatives and push them to give more aid to Ukraine. Call your representatives and push them to give more weapons to Ukraine. And I mean, especially if you live in a Republican state. Repost things, watch movies about real history, read books about real history, spread the real history. If you see things if you see someone spelling Kyiv as Kiev, correct them. If you see someone talking about Russian propaganda, correct them, because you might not convince them, but other people who are reading this will know the real information. If you walk into Barnes and Noble and you see and you see a section on Russian history and you see books about Ukraine in that section, call that Barnes and Noble manager and tell them to change that because it's not right. Basically, one of the biggest things that you can do as an American that doesn't cost you anything is help us fight the information war, help us decolonize it in the eyes of the world, help us spread the real information about Ukraine. If you see like a Russian narrative somewhere, change them. Like, help us do these things. If you see articles of Ukrainian people talking about their experiences, spread them, send them to friends, family, whoever. You never know who is actually going to read something. I find it that a lot of the times that I ask to like send my lives to people or like share this or share that, people are like, well, I don't know who to share this to. Anyone. You might think that none of your friends or family members or like, I don't know, random colleagues are interested in reading this, but they might be. If you're a part of a book club, share the article there. If you're a part of a Facebook group, share it there. You never know who might be interested, and you never know who might be bored one night and who might read the article and who might change their mind, or who might watch the video or something like that. So basically, like, there's so many like free ways of helping Ukraine that are just, that are very, very, like, I guess, like, they're so easy and they're so simple, but they're not very obvious, right? So I think one of the biggest things that you can do that isn't like donations, because God knows we need donations, right? But like shopping Ukrainian businesses is a great idea for like Christmas gifts and stuff like that. That is if you are able to put money into it, right? But if you aren't, and even if you are, still, like, an amazing thing that you can do to help us is help. I created this hashtag on Twitter, and it's on Russia the world. And basically, you can help us on Russia the world. You can help us basically undo this spider web of Russian lies about Ukraine and other countries. So I think, if you wanted to help Ukraine, one of the best ways would be, if you see something, say something. Share information from trusted sources, like Veronica says. If you hear something about like Ukraine's constitution being like racist or something like that, if you see some, like, I don't know, claims about Ukrainian Nazis or something, and it sounds believable, double check it. Don't fall for Russian propaganda. Like, help that way. That is incredible help. I see so many times, like, there are people who are well-wishers and who want to help Ukraine and who are 100% behind Ukraine, and then they will post things like Kiev. And I'm like, okay, it's Kyiv. If you see someone writing the Ukraine, correct them. It's Ukraine, not the Ukraine. We're not a territory. We're a sovereign country. We're not that territory of Ukraine. We're a sovereign country, Ukraine. But yeah. So yeah. Oh my gosh, wait, Kanti here says, I volunteer with a group that matches up native English speakers with people in Ukraine to practice English. Costs nothing and a nice way to help. Yeah, that's an amazing thing. That's a great idea. Here, Evie says, I volunteer with the Ukrainian Student Association at Stanford. These groups are out there. Yeah, see, this is awesome. This is an amazing way too. A Ukrainian association at Stanford sounds like an amazing thing. I think that's amazing. Like, you can find out from various groups like what kind of help they need. Like sometimes Ukrainian, like, let's say you're a graphic designer and you have some free time, you can volunteer that time to help Ukrainian nonprofits design PSAs and design like public service like public service marketing and stuff like that about Ukraine. Or you can help like translate books from Ukrainian into English, depending on your skill. Like always, you know, if you know how to do something, like let's say you are looking at like a Ukrainian group on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, and you are like a graphic designer, right? And you see that their design sucks, right? And you know that with good design they could reach more people, and you're a designer and you have spare time, reach out to them, offer your services for free. Like let's say you're a video editor and you see like a Ukrainian group that has like crappy videos, right? And you know that you could make them better, and you know that this will reach more people, or you have an idea of how you can help them with your skill. Do it. Offer your skills, you know? That is a fantastic way to help. Okay. Well, I'm going to go, and because it's 1 a.m. Oh my gosh. Okay. I didn't realize how late it was. All right, guys, you should go to bed. I should go to bed. Well, I have a lot to do actually. I'm going to add links to this live. I'm going to add links to Leleka support. I'm going to add links to I'm going to add things to the description of this live, and I'm going to add timestamps, and I'm going to add Leleka and Medium to my beacons. So don't forget to look into the books on my Amazon wish list. I'm also going to add the wish list to the description of this video, because I don't think that it's available on on YouTube. So yeah, you guys can find the books there if you're interested in them. And thank you so very much. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.